How do ordinary, well-meaning people, individuals just like you and me, come to embrace dangerous ideologies? What subtle shifts in thinking, what pressures lead them down a path toward extremism and the abandonment of their own moral compass? It's a question that haunts history, and one that demands constant re-examination. We like to think we're immune, that history's darkest chapters, the rise of fascism, the horrors of genocide, could never repeat themselves in our time. We tell ourselves that we are too enlightened, too aware, too sophisticated to fall prey to the same traps. But the third wave experiment shatters that illusion, revealing a disturbing truth about human nature. It demonstrates how easily we can be swayed, how readily we can surrender our individuality for the sake of belonging, showing how easily the line between order and oppression can blur, even in a typical American classroom, a place we associate with learning, growth, and the free exchange of ideas. It serves as a stark reminder that vigilance is always required. It began with a simple question, a question born out of a desire to understand one of history's most incomprehensible tragedies. How could so many Germans claim ignorance of the Holocaust? How could an entire nation participate or at least stand idly by while such atrocities were committed? Was it simply a matter of evil individuals, or was something more insidious at play? Textbook answers weren't enough. The dry facts and figures, the dates and names, failed to capture the human element, the psychological dynamics that allowed such a horror to unfold. So, teacher Ron Jones, a man determined to bridge the gap between knowledge and understanding, set out to make his students feel, not just learn, how conformity and obedience can take hold, how easily individuals can be swept up in a movement, losing sight of their own values and principles in the process. What happened over 5 days in 1967 is a chilling lesson, a powerful and disturbing demonstration of the seductive nature of power and the dangers of unquestioning allegiance. The desire to belong, the innate human need for acceptance and connection, can silence conscience and critical thought, leading us to compromise our beliefs and participate in actions we would normally condemn, turning good people into followers of something dark, transforming ordinary citizens into instruments of oppression, all in the name of unity and purpose. The third wave serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that we must always be vigilant against the forces that seek to manipulate and control us. Ron Jones, a history teacher at Cubberley High School in Palo Alto, California during the 1960s, was far from ordinary. He wasn't content with simply reciting dates and names from a textbook. He was known for his creative and often unconventional lessons, always seeking innovative ways to engage his students and bring history to life. He believed in experiential learning, pushing the boundaries of traditional education. But nothing in his previous teaching experience could have prepared his students, or indeed himself, for the extraordinary and unsettling experiment he was about to undertake. It all began in 1967, a year of social and political upheaval, when Jones decided to tackle a difficult and complex subject in a way no one expected. After a particularly impactful lesson on Nazi Germany, a topic that always sparked intense discussion and disbelief, his students, grappling with the enormity of the Holocaust and the blind obedience that fueled the Nazi regime, asked a haunting question: how could ordinary people, seemingly decent individuals, let such atrocities happen? Jones realized that simply lecturing about the dangers of conformity and the seductive nature of power wasn't enough to truly convey the gravity of the situation. He felt compelled to find a way to make the abstract concepts of fascism and social control tangible, to allow his students to experience firsthand the subtle allure of authoritarianism. He decided to simulate the rise of fascism within the confines of his own classroom, a microcosm of society where he could carefully guide and observe the dynamics at play. And so he embarked on a daring experiment, creating a structured social movement within his class, a movement he cleverly called the Third Wave. The underlying goal was simple, yet profound: to demonstrate in a visceral and unforgettable way how easily individual freedom can be surrendered, often willingly, in exchange for the perceived comfort and security of strict discipline, a strong sense of belonging, and the promise of collective identity. To initiate this transformation, he introduced a set of strict rules designed to instill order and obedience, fostered a strong sense of group identity through shared rituals and slogans, and encouraged direct action to promote the movement's principles and solidify its presence, fully expecting some level of resistance from his independent-minded students. But to his astonishment, and perhaps to his own peril, his students embraced the experiment with an enthusiasm that bordered on fervor. The transformation was swift and unsettling, unfolding with alarming speed and intensity. What had begun as a seemingly harmless and well-intentioned teaching moment, a creative way to illustrate a historical lesson, quickly spiraled into something far more complex and ethically challenging, a social phenomenon that extended beyond the classroom walls and began to take on a life of its own, and ultimately, more dangerous and difficult to control than anyone could have predicted, raising profound questions about human nature and the seductive power of group dynamics. The experiment was rapidly evolving into a situation far beyond what Jones had initially anticipated, forcing him to confront the unforeseen consequences of his unconventional approach. The experiment began with a single rule: strength through discipline. Jones transformed his relaxed classroom into a place of rigid order. Students sat at attention, answered in 3 words, and followed strict routines. Surprisingly, the students thrived. Distractions vanished, and even the most disruptive kids became focused and efficient. The drills created a sense of unity and purpose. The comfort of clear rules replaced the chaos of teenage life. Individuality faded as the class became a synchronized unit. Discipline wasn't punishment. It was empowering. Students felt liberated from uncertainty, bonded by shared effort. By day's end, Jones saw how quickly order could become addictive. The seed of conformity had been planted, and it was growing fast. On day 2, Jones added a new motto: strength through community. He introduced a symbol, a wave inside a circle, and a special salute, deepening the group's identity. The students embraced these rituals, practicing the salute with pride. The classroom became an exclusive club. Social cliques dissolved. Everyone was united under the third wave banner. The sense of belonging was intoxicating, especially for those who'd felt invisible before. But as unity grew, so did the divide between members and outsiders. The experiment was no longer just a lesson, it was becoming a real movement. By Wednesday, the third wave was spreading beyond the classroom. New students joined, drawn by rumors of something special. Jones introduced the next principle: strength through action. Members designed banners and received membership cards, some marked with a red X. Those with the X became informants, reporting rule breakers. Suddenly, trust vanished, replaced by suspicion and fear. Loyalty was now policed by the students themselves. Dissent went underground. Recruitment became a mission. The movement grew rapidly, fueled by pride and paranoia. Even shy students became zealous recruiters, eager to prove their loyalty. The third wave was no longer a simulation, it was a self-sustaining force. Jones realized he was losing control. On Thursday, the third wave dominated the school. Over 200 students had joined. Jones, now fully in character as the leader, told them their movement was part of a nationwide effort. He promised a televised address from a national leader at a rally the next day. The students were electrified. Their classroom project now felt like a revolution. They saw themselves as an elite vanguard, ready to change the world. The promise of a leader and a national mission cemented their loyalty. They had no idea the truth was about to shatter everything. Friday, the final day of the third wave. A week that had started with simple classroom exercises was about to reach its dramatic conclusion. The air crackled with anticipation, a palpable sense of excitement and purpose hanging heavy in the school hallways. The auditorium was packed, filled to the brim with students eager to witness the culmination of their shared experience. Every seat was taken, every available space occupied, with over 200 fervent third-wave members, all united by a common goal, a shared identity. They had become a force, a collective, bound together by the principles they had embraced. Banners waving, emblazoned with the third-wave symbol, a visual representation of their unity and purpose. The flags fluttered, adding to the electric atmosphere. Anticipation high. They were ready, eager to receive the promised message, the revelation that would solidify their movement and propel them forward. The energy in the room was almost tangible. Jones led them in chanting the movement's mottos, slogans that had become ingrained in their minds, reinforcing their commitment to the third wave. Each word was spoken with conviction, a testament to their unwavering belief. Then sealed the doors and dimmed the lights, creating an atmosphere of secrecy and importance. The outside world faded away, leaving them isolated and focused on the events about to unfold. For the promised broadcast, the moment they had all been waiting for. The television screen flickered, a beacon of hope and expectation in the darkened room. The TV showed only static. A wave of confusion rippled through the auditorium. Whispers broke out, questions hanging in the air. Confusion spread. The anticipation began to dissipate, replaced by a growing sense of unease. What was happening? Where was the promised broadcast? Finally, Jones revealed the truth, a truth that would shatter their illusions and force them to confront the reality of their actions. There was no national movement, no leader, no broadcast. It was all a fabrication, a carefully constructed illusion designed to expose a deeper truth. It was all an experiment, a social experiment designed to demonstrate the seductive power of groupthink and the ease with which individuals can be manipulated. He explained how easily they'd traded freedom for belonging, how readily they had surrendered their individuality in exchange for the comfort of conformity, how quickly they'd become what they once condemned, mirroring the very behaviors they had previously criticized in others. The irony was stark and undeniable. As the students absorbed this, the weight of their actions began to sink in. The initial excitement and enthusiasm were replaced by a heavy silence, a collective moment of reckoning. Jones played footage of Nazi rallies, a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating consequences of blind obedience, showing them their own behavior reflected in history. The parallels were undeniable, a chilling illustration of how easily history can repeat itself. The realization was devastating. The carefully constructed facade of the third wave crumbled, revealing the uncomfortable truth beneath. Pride turned to shame and tears. The weight of their actions, the realization of their complicity was overwhelming. The experiment was over, the illusion shattered, leaving behind a room full of disillusioned and humbled students. But its lesson was unforgettable. A lesson about the dangers of conformity, the importance of critical thinking, and the fragility of freedom. In just 5 days, a single week, a classroom exercise had transformed into a powerful and unsettling demonstration of human behavior. Ordinary students had become willing followers of a dangerous ideology, a chilling reminder of the potential for even the most well-intentioned individuals to be swayed by the power of the group. The line between us and them had vanished, blurred by the shared experience, the collective identity, and the seductive allure of belonging. And the consequences were painfully real, a lasting reminder of the importance of vigilance and the enduring power of individual thought. The third wave worked because it tapped into powerful human needs: belonging, identity, and purpose. Simple rituals and rules created an in-group, making students feel special and secure. The demands escalated gradually, so each new step felt like a small, reasonable change. Authority played a key role. Students trusted their teacher, even as he became more authoritarian. Fear and suspicion kept everyone in line, while the promise of a greater cause fueled their enthusiasm. These psychological forces, social identity, incremental commitment, obedience to authority, combined to create a perfect storm. In just days, a classroom became a microcosm of how fascism can take root anywhere. The third wave is more than a historical footnote. It's a warning. It shows how groupthink and the desire for belonging can override conscience and critical thinking. The same techniques used in cults and extremist movements, symbols, rituals, charismatic leaders, can transform individuals into followers. The greatest defense against tyranny is individual courage, questioning, dissenting, and thinking for oneself. In today's world of echo chambers and polarization, these lessons are more urgent than ever. Democracy depends on daily acts of critical thought and moral choice. Remembering the third wave reminds us, the seeds of conformity are always present. It's up to us to resist.